Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to explore the concept of variables in Phinite. Variables are essential elements in any process. In different contexts, variables might be called input variables or capture variables. When working inside the tool, you'll notice both input and capture variables. When interacting with Phinite APIs, you'll see variables included in the payload as user variables. All these are essentially session variables. They're used throughout a session, either by the agent for context and information generation, or by tools as arguments to execute specific actions. Let's look at how a predefined tool utilizes session variables. For example, in this agent, we've attached two tools, Send Email and Send for Approval. When you add a predefined tool, any required variables are automatically included. For AI-driven tools, you can't edit their LLM description or name, as these are fixed settings. For instance, if a tool expects the subject as a string and you define it as an integer, the tool call will fail. This is why editing the description isn't permitted. We've provided descriptions that suit most use cases. For each variable, there are generally 3 configurations available. For predefined and AI-derived variables, editing isn't allowed. However, you can assign a fixed value or reference existing system values. Let's select this option as an example. Since it's already set up, there haven't been any changes, so nothing new appears here. That's okay. Here is a user-created capture variable. For example, it could be a list of recipient names derived from their email addresses. This is a smart use of variables. That's the process for how predefined tools use variables. Let's remove this one for now. Notice for the Send Email tool, you see fields like recipient, subject, CC, and BCC email addresses, but not the email body. The email body can be quite extensive, so it's typically generated dynamically by the agent at runtime, based on the user's needs. The agent will generate and fill in the email body automatically. For any predefined tool you add, you can view both its inputs and outputs in the Variables section. For example, it takes subject and CC as inputs. As outputs, it returns recipient and subject. If you want to use the recipient returned by this tool as input for another custom tool, for instance, a random email sender, here's how you can do it. You reference the output from the Send Email tool by its name, such as gmail.sendemail. The tool returns an object, and you can access its values using something like inputs sendemail.recipient or inputs sendemail.subject. In this case, we're retrieving the recipient. We've obtained the recipient and are using it in this tool, which returns status, send count, read count, and recipients processed. This final tool is simply for demonstration, showing you what inputs are provided. System variables can all be accessed in the code. The output here is essentially a copy of system variables, returned as an output key within our capture variable. We'll review this together. It will include all system variables from the startup to this point. The process may take a moment, but we can review how variables were captured, utilized at runtime, what was returned, and which outputs we decided to include for this tool. Upon reviewing, you'll see variable definitions like first name, last name, and tuple first name. From the email, the system extracted these variables using the LLM, which enables it to identify and utilize the relevant information before calling the Send Email tool. As mentioned, the tool returns objects like Gmail send email, and inside that you find details such as status, send count, failed count, and recipient. The random email sender tool returns these 4 items. Up to this point, all variable data is available for review. This section shows our system variables. This is another example of a system variable, commonly used for transcripts, conversation summaries, or other purposes. We've kept it as a system variable so it's accessible throughout the session. Here's another variable, which I mentioned is actually an object. For example, gmail.sendemail refers to an object, specifically the email object. The object includes recipients and subject as its returned fields. The Send Email tool returns status, sent count, failed count, and recipients processed. That covers our overview of variables. We covered what variables are and their role in the process. All these are session variables, how to create and use them with tools, and how predefined tool outputs can be utilized by other tools. This is how variables returned from one tool can be accessed and used in another.